Hello, and welcome to another session of What the. Today's topic is going to build upon yesterday's discussion regarding those circumstances of intimacy and how I apply my own strategies in a relationship or a collaboration. Always remember business before pleasure. So I approach my strategies with a business decorum of what is the most conducive way I can perpetuate this conversation moving forward, especially if I have something in common with that other person. So, having something in common. Well, the most important thing is business acumen. So, what business opportunities do I like to perpetuate? Those things that are sustainable, obviously. But it goes into a circumstance of collaboration, and then possibly colleague, and then maybe companion, but at the least a colleague. So there are four circumstances that occur. Those circumstances I call a veto. Those letters are V, T, O, and W. So the V stands for verbal. That's the conversation where I introduce myself and we try and find common ground. So that's the verbal circumstance where we enter into, hey, we should carry on this conversation and possibly have a second conversation. So the second conversation hopefully leads to more conversations. And then we get into a threshold. What's the threshold? Do I become intimate with this person? Now, intimacy only goes so far. It goes into possibly a circumstance of caressing and kissing and so on. No sexual intercourse. That is the oral agreement where I talk about exclusivity. If we go on to have a circumstance of intimacy where we become sexually active with one another, then that is the exclusivity circumstance, and monogamy comes in. So then after monogamy, well, then the circumstance goes from past the day to day, because it's always going to be day to day with that exclusivity, because it's like, okay, we're getting along, we're getting along, we're getting along, we're happy, we're happy, we're happy. And then if it gets into the written agreement where I provide a commitment and I create, well, memoirs and write those memoirs to her and tell her why I like her and why I'm in it with her and so on. That is the written agreement, and that is where it becomes the commitment. So, to reiterate, goes from verbal conversation to where we have wanting to enter into more conversations. Then it goes to the threshold where it becomes physical. And then the physicality is the kissing and caressing within reason. I like to think that it's not going to become a circumstance where clothes off, totally naked. No, there has to be underwear on, and that's the threshold to cross over into the exclusivity. Because I'm not going to be, like I said, philandering myself and sleeping with multiple women, because monogamy is my decorum. So then after that, if that girl and myself decide to go into the oral agreement where exclusivity exists, then the underwear come off, and then at that point we enter into our own experiences with one another. And then it becomes more of a circumstance of day to day, and the day to day with our experiences. You know, I like that experience yesterday, I want to experience this today. So anyway, we start experiencing one another, and then after that, possibly planning into the future. And that is the written agreement, to where the memoirs come in and I commit to that person and tell them why I want to be with them and so on and so forth. So That's basically the intimacy component of what I refer to as the best approach toward monogamy, and obviously in today's society, an intimate approach that has safety factors integrated within it. So this has been another session of What the.